In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Shooting to Survive by Timothy Blakely. So this guy's got a long list of experience and certifications and stuff like that, and it's mostly in law enforcement. He did some contracting overseas to teach like the A&P, and that's no easy task. But basically, this is a very comprehensive book, as my little notes here say. So I defined it here as a brief 600 pages because this is actually a pretty thick book, and it is very comprehensive. We're talking about everything from basically you start out talking about like mindset, and then you're talking about things like fitness, very detailed fitness, how to lose weight, how to maintain weight, all this other stuff, essentials that you're going to need for fitness, different workouts that you can do. And then you go into like the firearms-based stuff, and that goes on for quite some time, where you're talking about nomenclature, maintenance, and all this other stuff, basic stuff that you would probably find in a manual, but during the whole time it feels like he's just cutting it short. But this is like a one-stop shop for somebody who's not really all too familiar with a pistol, but may have some experience, because I would still recommend you still have some experience. Don't give this to a new shooter and expect that they're going to come out the end of it knowing what to do. But this is for somebody who actually has experience for the most part, but could definitely, round out their basic knowledge on how to use a pistol for self-defense. This gives a lot of good information, and pretty much everything is law enforcement based, so you got to be prepared for that, because sometimes he references things like, well, tell your officers, or I recommend telling your officers. I don't know if he's talking about using this book to give to officers, or if his training company, Police Tech, is actually mostly only catered to officers or whatever. But you notice that every now and then in the book that it goes back to law enforcement. So I mean, it is what it is, but when you're reading, you just know that whenever he's saying something, there's a lot of scientific stuff here in the beginning, talking about like one eye dominance and shooting with two eyes open rather than one eye open. So a lot of this stuff is backed by actual science, history, statistics, like history as in actual events that happened, and anecdotes, so stuff that actually happened to him. And he also does a very good job of referencing everything. If he's telling you something, like if he's referencing something from a book, he will tell you. He's not just making it seem like he just came up with these ideas on his own. And I very much appreciate that. However, I am very impressed with how much information is in this book. Again, very comprehensive. And it just goes down to the nitty-gritty, but again, it feels like he could go on forever about this stuff, so that's really cool. So you will notice throughout reading there are some grammar errors, if you will. Like there's some spelling errors, like certain words weren't, not that they weren't spelled right, but A was used twice in a row or something like that. Just small like grammar errors, but nothing that's going to get you to scratch your head and be like, well, what is he talking about? You'll kind of see it. It'll be somewhat obvious, like a typo or whatever, but I mean, for a 600-page book, I think that's pretty good, because I mean, again, what you're getting out of this book is actually a good amount. Even if you are experienced, a lot of this stuff, he'll tell you the origins of a lot of things, and you might actually be impressed with some of the stuff that you actually learn. I know it was actually a pretty good read for me, because I liked his very straightforward attitude, and basically how everything had a purpose. It all ended up coming back to this right here. Why does fitness have to do with shooting to survive? Why does shooting with both eyes open have to do with shooting to survive? Your way of developing a procedural memory. That's a big thing for him, is procedural memory, not muscle memory. And he explained why it's procedural and scientifically, and then of course gives references to the different studies proving why we need to do certain things more than others. Now, you're gonna have different things that you may disagree with. He's not an advocate of certain things that you might be an advocate of. For example, he is an advocate of slingshotting, like actually turning the pistol like 45 degrees to the deck like this and actually slingshotting it. So, I mean, that's based on his training and his experience and stuff like that, and that's something that I believe that he talked about wanting to train, that he liked to train officers on. But I mean, for me, most of it's an overhand technique, and I think it just depends on where you start out with and what you spend the most time doing, and the muscles that you actually have to work with these different techniques. So, you know, it is what it is, but he doesn't seem to tell you that his way is the right way every time. He more or less likes to go with the science-backed information and let you make your own decision for the most part as far as that's concerned, like power stroking, slingshotting, or whatever. But anyways, again, very comprehensive, good references backing his claims or his information, and, you know, good amount of detail. Just very brief. I would be very interested to see what he has to say with like rifles or whatever, but you will notice that this is very Glock centered. So he just picks whatever is most common in law enforcement and he ran with it, but regardless, he did a pretty good job. So I very much like this book, and I think that it would be well worth the buy. Well worth 25 bucks. So if you're interested, you can find it on Amazon. I'll go ahead and put a link below. So I appreciate you guys watching, and you guys have a good one.